Heyo everybody, Haku here with this week's read through for Magical Girl Raising Project or Mahou Shoujo Ikusei Keikaku JOKERS, and we're finishing up chapter 1 this week. So we've got page 39-ish, I think we're at like 38, 39, or no, 48, 49, geez. That'd be way too much to read. Like 48, 49, all the way until the end. We're finishing this thing off. And I am loving, I've talked about it a lot in, well, I talked about it a bit in the Hot Q&A this week, but I've talked about it a lot with you all in Discord and in the comments and everything, but I am loving this series, or this sort of volume so far. I really liked the beginning and prologue. I love all the new characters. I love Prism Cherry and the Pure Elements, so I hope they're kind of on the good guy side of things for this arc. And I hope that Snow White actually kind of comes to work with them rather than fight them, because I feel like it'd be kind of tragic to watch a character that I want to root for fighting against other characters I want to root for. It seems like from the promo art that was at the beginning of this, I didn't read the names or anything, I tried to avoid that, but it seemed like the Queen and Carnival, the one I was calling that, and Shufflin appear to be bad guys. So if they're the bad guys and they're an enemy for Snow White and the Pure Elements to fight against, that would work. Or it could be cool, maybe they're the ones, or maybe somebody is out there. Maybe the poison person, they seemed kind of villainish looking. Possibly even the plant person. Maybe they're summoning the, what did we just learned about, are they called disruptors? I got their name wrong last time and then I corrected myself, but they're the disruptors maybe? But either way, they're a cool concept that we just learned about, so we'll have to see where that goes. Sorry, I was getting distracted by the noise of the storm. Hopefully you can't hear it on the microphone, but you shouldn't be able to. So we're starting off this one to read with Princess Inferno or Akari Hiyama. Oh, also I love the backstories that we got. Well, also seeing things from Fall's point of view, but the backstories we got for Princess Delusion and Prism Cherry. They were both really good. But either way, we're at page 48 towards the end with Princess Inferno or Akari Hiyama. Also, I looked into the other translation I was sent, and the other translation has Platt's name on it, but I talked to Platt about it, and he's like, I'm not sure why it has my name on it, because I don't really recognize some of the stuff. Maybe it's an old, unupdated version. But the up-to-date version that he edits as people give suggestions or corrections to some of the stuff is on the drive. So the drive would be the most updated and reliable version. So if you were using that, probably more reliable to use the drive. So starting with Princess Inferno Akariyama on page 48. When she was in 3rd grade elementary school, she made a secret base with everyone behind the mountainside. That secret base was passed over as they became senior students. Despite its foundation still being strong and the vinyl sheets still being tightly secured, they couldn't deny that it felt like it was run down. Despite only making it for themselves, they designed it and brought their own materials, and the 6 of them built it in the span of 1 month. The one responsible for directing it all was Akari Hiyama. She still visits the site sometimes, even after she's been accepted into high school. Now it's become nothing but a pile of debris entangled in trees. When she built it, she said, "We did it," and high-fived everyone after being filled with a sense of accomplishment. They high-fived so hard one of them actually cried. It was, maybe that's Snow White, it was an innovatively designed building that supported itself on the oak trees. It was a non-traditional 2-story secret base. Right? It continued to be exposed to wind and rain, and now it's nothing but debris. It's hard to imagine it ever looking dignified. She took a closer look from top to bottom. She was impressed that the rope they tied there was still rugged, and she confirmed that the names of everyone were still carved around the back. She smiled as she saw 2 of them under one umbrella. By the way, those 2 apparently started dating since they entered middle school. She heard some rumors about that somewhere. Back then, they were just close friends who were always teasing each other. How quickly time passes. Kids these days don't build secret bases anymore. according to her little sister, where she could hear what kids were doing nowadays. Building secret bases did sound fun, but it wasn't something they'd think of doing. It might just be something like an adventure or a fairy tale. Can they really just have fun by just listening about these things? Her inner old self would probably ask. Akari comforted herself by tapping on the tree trunk and turning her back on it. She passed through the bushes, straddled the roots of the tree, plucking the shrubbery, unintentionally swatting a mantis sitting on one of the branches. I should have brought a bug cage, she regretted as she left it alone. She went out from behind the shrine, brushing off the grass on her socks as she checked the time on her smartphone. Magical girls, huh? What a bad prank. Still, she had to go. She wanted to beat up whoever was behind this. If it wasn't just a prank, but something much worse, then she'd have to beat them up even further. In her handheld bamboo bag, she had a stun gun, a slingshot, a security alarm, a baton, a stress ball, and some pepper spray. Jesus. Like self-defense to the extreme, for use against whoever she'll be up against. If the police were to catch them, they'd no doubt be heavily armed. She was heavily armed herself, and it gave her a sense of reliability. Having a weapon and entering an enemy's territory, this method was suitable for Akari. She thought of it that way, but even if someone was told this, they'd probably think the same way. Akari Hiyama didn't need any sentimentalities. Sorry, this thing's like taking weird jumps as I'm scrolling down. The world would need a sense of sentiment to athletes who retired due to injuries, and the athlete was also forced to be sentimental. Some people were like that. In elementary school and middle school, she belonged to the track team, and Akari, who always ran in the fields, literally tripped on her career in the first year of high school. Akari, who always fell in quite a spectacular fashion, had her knee joint bend in a direction it shouldn't have been able to bend toward. And though it looked like it's healed, she couldn't run as freely as she did before. Yo, she's straight up, what is it, Hinako? Is it Hinako? Oh god, I'm hoping the main character of possibly my favorite game ever, I'm not getting her name wrong. But if you have not played Blue Reflection, play Blue Reflection. This is basically the story of it. She quit, kind of, not really, it's not track, but ballet rather, but she quit the club. Her relationships within the club faded away just as fast. Her status when she was eating during lunch had changed, and even when she went to the toilet together with some others. She had thought, oh well, to all of them, but the world was mercilessly bathing her with ruthless and sympathetic stares. Even though they had to go to the gym quickly, no one would run, and they'd always speak about the track team in an obscure manner. A classmate who was trying hard to recruit for club activities invited everyone but Akari. When things were like this, not even Akari wouldn't be affected. That's why when she went to the secret base that she and her friends made in elementary school so that she could be wrapped up in nostalgia. Okay, that's why. Alright? Though, since the secret base has now become debris, she was filled with more disappointment than nostalgia. So this is how it's going to be. She couldn't help that she was doing things that weren't what she was supposed to do. Akari was still Akari. She hasn't changed. She'd do things that were Akari-like first, the things that would make her happy and feel good. The cry of a mountain bird went from behind her all the way down. She aimed for the train station at the foot of the mountain. Inside the train station toilet, she blinked her eyelashes many times. Not bad. It's actually a pretty nice finish. Since she's going to be a hero, she has to look just as cool as one. The eyelashes were especially important. They protect the all-important eyes, and men are all weak to eyelashes. Saying that eyelashes determine the position of women wouldn't be an overstatement. If she told that theory, her friends would laugh at it. Yet she thought of it seriously. Whether in society, entertainment, or school, a spoiled lady would have excellent eyelashes. She rode the train for... Usually I read as I'm scrolling, but it's like taking weird jumps for some reason reading today. She rode the train for 2 stops and walked for 10 minutes. She arrived at the municipal library. She's never had a life of reading, so she's never used the library before. The building should have been there before she was born, but it looks surprisingly new. It had Western European cobblestones. The foliage plant bowls were shaped strangely, like modern art. It was fairly serious looking. She entered the hall from the automatic door, looking at the guide plate and heading to the hallway on her right. Was this a place people would go to often? After all, people would normally read books here. She stopped in front of conference room number 2. Even if she listened with her ears, she couldn't hear any sounds from the room. She didn't know if there was someone in the room. Being called a magical girl and taken to a place like this for whatever objective she couldn't understand gave her a hard impression. She knocked on the door 3 times. After 10 seconds, she heard a voice say, "Come in." Young, her age. Was she a magical girl? She already decided that it was a lie, but she still got excited. Coming in. Her voice was a little too high, perhaps. When she opened the door, the room inside had a desk, side by side, and some chairs, a whiteboard, a wall clock, some foliage plants similar to the one she saw back at the entrance, a modern art-style bowl, a flat-screen TV, and 3 girls. Oh, she should greet herself first. Greetings were the most fundamental, easy form of communication. She placed her right hand flatly beside her face. Hey, hello? The refreshing-looking girl looked like she was in middle school. She was watching her surroundings like she was worried about something. Hey, the unrefreshing-looking girl looked to be older than Akari. She didn't look like a high schooler, she looked like an adult, so she was probably a college student? The last one was outstandingly small. She was probably a lower-grade elementary schooler. Wait, Akari? Huh? You're May, aren't you? What are you doing here? She was a friend of Akari's little sister, 2nd-grade elementary schooler. She didn't know much. We have another May. She didn't know much about her sister's friend circles, but they always met at the local child organization, so she knew her face. Her name was Higashionna May. Oh my god, that name. Higashionna. Or Higashionna. Wait. So Onna's definitely woman, so what's Higashi? I'll have to think of that. Does that have something to do with blood? Nah, I can't tell from Higashionna May if that would... Well, Tepsuken May could become one with the wind, so maybe Higashionna May is, maybe she is also the wind one. Maybe she's Princess Tempest, I believe it was, commonly known as May. Alright, so I wonder which of the other 2 is Deluge then, is Nami, either way. I don't remember if she was middle school or high school. I think she was high school, but I don't remember. She didn't know much about her sister's friend circles, but yeah, I already got through that. Commonly known as May. Compared to some of the bad kids in the child organization, although it was just a relative comparison compared to others, she was a good kid. She cleaned up festivals, gathered garbage, removed snow, worked at the library. She even took over any unpleasant jobs for the bad kids. What am I doing? What are you doing? She rose from the chair, hurriedly heading close to her. The refreshing-looking middle school girl and the unrefreshing-looking college student. Okay, so she must be the middle school, not the college student for sure. Okay, so the middle school girl must be Nami then. And the unrefreshing-looking college student looked at them strangely. May was on her tiptoes, putting her mouth to Akari's ears. The 2 tips of her hair were touching her neck, so softly it almost tickled her. There's people who want to be magical girls here. Since she was whispering, she also whispered back, I know. Then why'd you come? Hey, didn't you just say you want to become a magical girl? Akari, didn't you just say it's all a lie? I did. When did I say that? You said the mouth-split woman and the human-faced dog were all imaginary in the kids' reading. You told everyone that Santa Claus was just their parents all along. I know the adults got angry with you. Now that she mentioned it, did she do things like that? Or did she not? Well, honestly, I never thought that I could become a magical girl here. I knew it. I asked you before, but why'd you come? 'Cause there's a bad guy tricking kids, right? Some kind of weird event or whatever, right? Don't they deserve to get beat? So you need someone to beat them up, right? You're doubting things again. It's normal to doubt. Very normal. You're so easily duped that even Sakuna's worried about you, May. I'm not being duped. I'm just someone who hasn't lost sight of their dreams, unlike you, Akari. Of course you haven't. Doubting is an adult's job. But Mom said high schoolers are still kids, though. Did you tell her you're coming here, too? No, I can't. I have to keep it a secret or I can't be a magical girl. There were still a lot of things that Akari wanted to say, but May stopped talking right there, indignantly going back to her seat with a humph, squaring her shoulders. Looked like she made her angry. She was unlike her crude and half-hearted little sister. She always spoke. She found anything she didn't like annoying. No wonder she got into fights with other second graders. It's like there's no way of working well with her. Scrolling down. She felt the refreshing middle school girl and the unrefreshing college girl were looking at her with even more suspicion. Should she try to calm May down for now? When she reached out her hand to May's direction, the door opened. Ah, looks like everyone's here. Just what kind of vile person would she face? She pictured all kinds of culprits, but all of them disappeared from her mind. She seemed to be an elegant lady. Or was she about 50 or 60 years old? Her thin jacket had a good tailoring. There was rose embroidery on her chest. It felt strangely raw. That rose. It looks beautiful. So we're going to have an old lady magical girl. That's interesting if we do. Elementary schoolers weren't afraid. Elementary schoolers in general wouldn't know probably, but at the very least she wasn't from where Akari lived. At May's abrupt words, the woman smiled. It's like a protective charm, you see. A charm. There are some people who fear those with a rose displayed on them. Did you know? The elderly woman went around the desk, moving while lowering the window blinds. Standing in front of the whiteboard, she placed a brown envelope on the desk. She looked at the four girls in turn, the elementary schooler, middle schooler, high schooler, and college student. She looked kind, but there was power in her eyes. That's right, her eyelashes were powerful. All right then, let's learn the procedures on how to become magical girls, shall we? So she might be the queen with the rose actually, and maybe she is actually bad, but one of the things she's doing that makes her bad is she's creating magical girls outside of what the land of magic knows about. So it's possible that she's basically being Toko right now. She's basically making those four magical girls to serve her own ends. But it's interesting though that we've never heard of the disruptors before, so they could be a completely different problem that she's actually trying to solve. So she could be good in that way, just good in an extraneous position to the land of magic. But now we're at Princess Tempest at page 54, and Princess Tempest is Mei Higashiona. Alright? This was a big failure. This was the biggest failure. Who would have thought Akari would come here, of all people? The one person she didn't want to come was the one person that came. She'd rather have her parents find out than her. She had to be a magical girl. She'd do anything for it. She'd bear any grueling training that came her way, no matter what the trials were. However, she can't do it if Akari Hiyama showed up. Mei Higashiona was a second-year elementary schooler. Her height was average, her weight was smaller than average. Akari Hiyama was a first-year high schooler. May had to look up to her because she was taller than her. Her breasts and butt had meat on them. She was stylish too. Her hair brilliantly dyed red. She was wearing makeup too. She had a salary since she worked part-time at a convenience store. She's like, damn it, she's perfect compared to me. She's no different from an adult. At the children's organization, she was always at the forefront leading everyone. Even the boys who were rowdy there and liked to prank everyone behaved in front of Akari. Among the girls, she was respected. Even May respected Akari. She didn't want to make her an enemy if possible. However, still, May had to exceed Akari. I love how this is like the thoughts of an elementary schooler toward her. Akari was always at the center of everyone, and May was always right by her side. That's why she could sense someone's feelings to Akari. Last summer, Sho Minamida moved in due to his father's work. Currently, he's in second grade middle school. He was quite different from the stupid boys in the area. He often had a gloomy gaze somewhere. He had a humbleness that he showed. He had a good smile. It was something she's never seen before in this town. He always spoke politely. There were no other proper boys like that in the neighborhood. People who whispered around, "Who do you like? Do you like him?" while squealing in joy were like the girls from middle school to high school, but May already skipped past them. She didn't tell anyone about who she loved. This was how an adult would do it. She didn't pay any particular attention to how Sho felt about her at first. She thought just thought of her as someone who'd changed her hair color. Alright? The first time she was aware of it was last fall's outing. She was in high spirits as she ran across the mountain road and ran and then slipped and fell. She didn't have any huge injuries, that was good, yet her feet were hurt and her elbows were bleeding from the scratches. Her clothes were dirty with soil and her hat flew off into the lacquer bush. From above the cliffs, her worried friends looked down toward her but couldn't do anything since they were afraid to fall too. And when she was afraid and felt like she was about to cry, it was Sho who came up to her. Contrary to his meager image, he told the other kids to call the adults. He called out to Mei as he was worried for her. The gentle feeling when he carried Mei by his side. She could never forget how those hands felt. She felt like she was being carried like a princess. Don't, little girl, do not try to want to be a princess. This never works out well. It never works out well for others, the most. When she looked at Sho's expression, also don't like people named Sho, that's bad too. Looking at his expression from underneath, her heart couldn't stop beating. It might even stop entirely. She could only see his chin from down there, but it still won't stop beating. When she became conscious of Sho, she soon became interested. Sho was interested in Akari. Whenever something happened, he always looked at Akari, always helped her with something. It wasn't just because Akari was the center of everything. Whenever Akari came to help out the children's organization, Sho looked brighter and smiled. He also became more positive, always joking around. Since his surroundings were children, they were too sloppy, crude, and rude to notice any changes in Sho. Only Mei noticed. Akari Hiyama, high school, first year. Sho Minamita, middle school, second year. Mei Higashiyonna, elementary school, second year. She was handicapped. Why would a middle school boy who had a crush on a high school girl accept a confession from an elementary school one? Akari was in a co-ed high school, so Sho could enter no problem. If she weren't wrong, by the time he'd be there, Akari would be a third year and Sho would be a first year in the same school. Mei would still be a fourth grade elementary schooler, so she had no chance of winning. When Mei was wetting her pillow with tears, wondering if there was another elementary schooler as miserable as her, she saw a text message that asked, "Do you want to be a magical girl?" And she was convinced that this was her last chance. A second-year elementary schooler had no equilibrium against a second-year middle schooler. But what if she's a magical girl? Mei knew a lot of detailed things about magical girls. On Monday mornings, she'd discuss yesterday's Cutie Healer episodes. When magical girls transform, we've seen so many Cutie Healer references that it'll be really interesting if we get to meet Cutie Healer eventually, especially if Snow White gets to meet her. I want to see the meeting between Snow White and Cutie Healer. When magical girls transform, their form becomes completely different. Not just decoratively like costumes, batons, portable makeup, and tambourines, but small girls can look like older girls, as if they were middle school or high school age. Naturally, she'd look cute too. This time, she'd be chosen as a magical girl, and if she became a magical girl, then Mei can have the right to be happy. She'll confess to Sho, and maybe they could even go on a date. She knew that originally they're supposed to protect the world and keep everyone safe. She knew this, so she thought she'd hide her true purpose for becoming a magical girl. If there were plenty of magical girls in this world, then surely there are some that have impure motives too. As long as they act like proper magical girls, then no matter what their reasoning was, they'd be proper magical girls. However, Akari also came to this place. The reason she became a magical girl was because she wanted to even the playing field against Akari, so she couldn't do that if Akari became one too. Now, this is very important. As you all know, you mustn't reveal to anyone that you are magical girls. If you do. While writing down the explanation of the professor woman on her notebook, Mei calmed down. Gradually, she looked at Akari. She was listening to her with a bored look on her face. She wasn't really listening. She didn't even write on her notes. If she wasn't serious about all this, she could never be a magical girl. Even if she became a magical girl, she'd just get fired. That's what she thought. Even if she didn't get fired straight away, Akari wasn't serious and Mei was. So she's sure that she'd be the better magical girl, and Sho would have to look at Mei too. Alright. She looked at the two girls beside Akari. They were listening to what was being talked about, but didn't write down anything. Maybe May could come out of all this as the only winner. She underlined the more important items with her pen. The sound of it sliding on the paper was comforting. "All right, take these." She handed out the things from the brown envelopes. There were 4 hand mirrors and 4 gems. All right. It was quite big for a gem, so they might just be counterfeits. It was round and suspended like an egg. Its vertical length was somewhere between 5 and 7 centimeters. The gems were also differently colored. Akari's was red, the middle school girl's was blue, the college girl's was yellow, and the one May got was white. It was a deep color. It looked like a glass ball. The hand mirror was made out of plastic and was about 10 centimeters, and there was a price tag of 100 yen on it. I thought she was green. Maybe I'm just wrong. Oh no, she isn't green. Did she have any green on her outfit? Yeah, she had the leaves. So I don't know. I guess maybe it is a white gem. It was a deep color. It looked like a glass ball. The hand mirror was made out of plastic and was about 10 centimeters. There was a price tag of 100 yen on it. This was something you'd buy from a dollar store. Okay. Sorry. Hard to keep track with the laggy page stuff. There's nothing magical about the mirrors. I've prepared these so you can check how you look after you transform. Alright. Sorry, just checking everything. So you can see how you look after you transform. Or is it? Oh, the gems are the magical items. I give these to you. If you lose it, then that's it. Try not to lose it if you can. They were quite attractive. Alright then, please stand up, grab the gems on your right hand, and place them on your heads. Yes, just like that. Hold it properly so it won't fall. Now then, close your eyes. Please imagine the image of a magical girl. It doesn't matter what form you take. Okay? Now while you're doing that, say Princess Mode on. You can whisper it or you can shout it. Doesn't matter either way. The room is entirely soundproof. Yell or whisper. She got lost as her vision was blocked in all black. What would Cutie Healer do? She'd probably yell it out, but Cutie Blade, who betrayed the evil Dark Eden and became her ally, would be the type to whisper it. Not to mention, there were some people who found Cutie Blade's unorthodox transformations popular. But she wasn't trying to betray any enemy force right now, and this wasn't some kind of dark hero thing, meaning May should probably be an orthodox magical girl. Princess Mode on, she yelled out. She felt like something had changed, but she also felt like nothing had changed. No, that's wrong. Something definitely changed. She was carrying something on her back now. Now, open your eyes slowly and check the mirrors. Slowly, she said, but she couldn't afford to follow that. She wanted to know what happened to her as soon as possible. She jumped into the fray as she took the mirror in her hand, looking impressed at how she looked. There was a beautiful girl there. Her eyes were huge. She was perfect. She had a light green color. It was altogether amazingly well organized. Her tied-up hair bounded back like wings and scattered on the golden-colored gem. Okay. Her hair color was light brown, and the gem was tucked on her head. If it was the same gem she used when she transformed, shining with the light flickering like a flame. Okay, sorry. She moved the mirror and saw her whole body. She was wearing a swimsuit with a high degree of exposure, like a gravure idol. Her lower body was only covered with something like a loincloth, which made her restless. There was a big wheel-shaped bunch of leaves on her back, and a large blade which reflected the lights of the fluorescent lamps. Her eyesight height was completely different than before. She was looking at the world through somewhere high. Her arms and legs were also growing. She looked like she was in her early teens. Okay, so now we have Happy Princess Tempest there in the front, and behind her we have Quake, Deluge, and Inferno also looking at their magical selves. Okay. Interesting. Alright. Yes, she shouted out while making a gutsy pose. She wasn't the type of magical girl who kept her appearance and only changed her costume. She was the type of magical girl who had her outer appearance completely changed. With how she looks now, she'd suit Sho. She was a beautiful girl and matched his age. There should be no complaints. Congratulations. Yes, thank you so much. She bowed her head many times to the woman who clapped softly. Now her dream can come true, probably. At least she's finally reached the starting line. Today is just the beginning. She looked around her. The girl with a tail was carrying a large hammer. A fully blue girl was holding a trident. There was a girl who was carrying around some large weapon whose hair tips were burning. Three of them looked dumbfounded. Their eyes widened, their mouth was open, and they were looking at each other. They should have understood that they became magical girls, so why are they so surprised? May really was the super best magical girl here. She's sure to steal Sho's heart now. The woman clapped her hands twice. Now, I'm going to explain the jobs you have to do. Alright? Let me get some water. This is great though, because now we get to see things from the perspective of Princess Quake, so now we're seeing like all of the pure elements' perspectives. So, Princess Quake, Chiko Saito. She didn't think she'd actually become a magical girl. If anyone asked her why she'd come, she'd actually become a magical girl. If anyone asked her why she'd come, she wanted to know what the people who sent out the prank mails about magical girls wanted, and what their aim was. And if she could, she thought that she could ask them all of this. That was her reason. But really, that was her second reason. An emerging religion, product information, pyramid schemes, or some personality remodeling seminar, if she could fill her daily blog with that, it could be the seed of a story. Right. The place was a conference room in the municipal library. Surely they don't plan on using this place for abductions, too. People could easily escape in an emergency, there was no danger in that, and it was quite boring. She's never heard of anyone talking about magical girls as a code phrase where they'd gather, so if she could make a good article in her blog, it might be posted on a news site. If so, she can totally gain access. She could earn money as an affiliate. She played along and participated with the scammer, but she never expected this to be real. This isn't something that she could tell others, is it? In the mirror, there was a beautiful girl carrying a ridiculously large hammer. She had fresh, thin arms that looked like she never did any physical labor. So how could she bear the weight of a hammer that was 3 times as heavy as her? She tried to put the hammer down on the floor. Boom, it vibrated. The linoleum floor made a bad noise. This wasn't a fake. This was a real hammer. The girl who had some kind of blade, which she can think of no other way to use other than to hurt people, was delighted. It was pleasant to see her delighted at an abnormal situation like this. An adult would be too dumbfounded. Before she transformed, she seemed to have been the elementary school-ish girl. No matter how impossible the situation was, she could accept it happily. Children really were amazing. Okay. In short, that was Chico's number one reason for coming here. If there were children that were deceived by this scammer, she would definitely save them. She didn't want to see or hear any children become unhappy. Chiko Saito had nothing that you could call a childhood. Children were loved unconditionally. Cute and lovely, that was the expression they had. Even if you'd call them brats, there was something charming hiding inside. To a child, being cute was a necessary condition. Chiko, who wasn't cute at all, was never a child. Just looking at her made her father give up. Jesus. Just looking at her. Jeez. What the hell? Just looking at her made her father give up. Even when she's quiet, she got reactions she didn't want, like, "You're so stern. Why are you so mad all the time? She's scary. Sorry." The heartless ones would call Chico names like gorilla, giant, hard puncher, words that directly abused her. If she had a soft heart, she'd have been very hurt. But even Chico, who wasn't a soft-skinned girl, became introverted. She accelerated quickly to the opposite of being cute. Okay. Why were the other kids more loved like children than she was? She wanted to know. She observed, studied, and analyzed, deepening her mind about children. She didn't envy them. She yearned to have something she didn't have. At the same time, she had respect. Children, especially girls, the way they think, the way they were formed, among other things, she was captivated by them. She sat on the child park bench, looking at the elementary schoolers. Recently, she was looking at the girls playing on the pool. She said that college students were amazing, that there was nothing as wonderful as having flexible timetables. The girls who were active under their soft skins, she's so weird, I love it. Their forms as a whole making a rounded curve, traces of sunburn, the youth that she never had, the smiling face that shone brightly, short fingers. She was satisfied. She thanked her parents who gave birth to her when she got home and got to work sketching. Oh my god, I love Princess Quake so much. There was a stack of sketchbooks where she could draw the figures of children piled up like a mountain. But if the police ever finds this somehow, Chico's life would end on the spot. If her parents ever come to suddenly clean up her apartment, just thinking about things like that made her spine chill. Oh my god, Princess Quake is a riot. She didn't really want a job like a school teacher or a nursery teacher. She didn't really have what it takes to be liked by children. After doing research after research, she knew she could provide nothing in that field. If she ever became a school or nursery teacher, she wouldn't even be able to attract them with candy. I'm tearing up. Oh my god, it's getting harder to read. I'm trying to not to lose it too much. Oh my god. Chico, oh, she's killing me. If people knew about her, she'd be condemned. She'd probably be isolated in society, becoming someone bad who would never be forgiven. So she had to keep this a secret. She didn't want to frighten children. She quietly continued her research, academically and personally. Oh my god. Fortunately, Chico was a woman. Although suspicious people were always looked at closely, most of the time people only cared about suspicious men. Authority in schools were more lax otherwise. Even if she sat at the children's park and looked at the pool, she wouldn't be blamed. It was the same with other activities. She kept it a secret and she didn't approach the children. She didn't hurt them. This was as much as she could do if she wanted to continue. And yet, she herself has now become a beautiful girl. Loving someone from a distance. In the old Showa era, it would be called pure love. Nowadays, in the Heisei era, it'd be called stalking. But here, where there was zero distance with herself, she'd become like a child, and she was surprised. She didn't mind if she looked filthy. Her clothes were mass merchandise. Her hair was self-cut, no makeup, she had no accessories. Even her otaku friends would consider her too stoic. She never thought she is complete lolicon, full-blown lolicon. She never thought of herself as someone cute. Her relationship with Tempest is going to be hilarious. Yet, the her that was here now, she can objectively say that she was cute. Yeah, I didn't miss anything. She was still Chico Saito inside, the person who never had a childhood and grew up to become a college student. The girl in the mirror had a tail growing. As she became aware of it, she tried to move it. She hurriedly hit the floor. It was a real tail, yet it was connected to her back rather than to her butt. Was this magic? Reality had eroded to unreality. That's what she's worried about. At first she was scared and astonished. Then her head was filled with joy. Then she had sadness. Whatever was going on in her back, her hair, her mouth, her tail, as if it was completely absorbed, she saw herself in the mirror, and her happy time abruptly ended. She returned to Chico Saito. She saw a comically tired college student who worked herself too hard. She looked around. Everyone turned back to normal. The elementary schooler sharpened her lips with dissatisfaction. The middle schooler and high schooler looked at each other. The old woman once more clapped her hands twice. For now, your transformation will immediately end. You'll need to gradually get used to it. Once you're able to prolong your transformation time, you'll be able to use a variety of powers. For now, I think it's time I showed you our secret base. But I'll let those who don't wish to be magical girls tell me beforehand. I'll have your memories erased, and you can return to your original lives. The high school girl muttered, "A secret base," and then raised her hand and said, "Sign me up to be a magical girl." The elementary schooler naturally nodded arrogantly. The middle schooler also declared, "I'll do it," with a serious look. Naturally, Chico had no option to refuse. As a girl, she can mix and work with other girls. She wondered if such a happy life like that exists. Oh my god. Freaking Chico. Best character. Before I get into this interlude, I love JOKERS so far. Like, look at all we learned about every character in Limited, and we have learned so much more in just the first chapter of Jokers. Like, we learned about the wants and goals and backstories, kind of all of the pure elements of Prism Cherry. And we got a bunch of stuff with Snow White and Fall. Plus we got stuff with Fled and Shadowgale at the beginning. This has been great. And now we have the Interlude. I'm going to have to eat something after this. My hand is shaking really bad. Yeah, we're at page 66. And we're pretty far in. Interlude. To nanako-san, her current boss, the magical girl Flea, was a very difficult person to understand. There was no doubt that she was a very talented person, since she rose to become the head of human resources. A lot of difficult and useless practices had been eliminated. Efficiency and ability became more important, and the important documents you have to make were reduced to 1/5 of its usual size. She advanced speedily. The subsequent reforms were also done well. Not only that, she was also like a life benefactor to nanako-san, who'd been through a near-death experience. Yes, she was talented, yet she was hard to understand. Nanako-san realized that she was an ordinary person. She knew the general theory that ordinary people can't understand geniuses. That's what she says to convince herself. So if she was ordered to do something for her job, she'll do it properly, without disinterest. Currently, the Human Resources Division is in chaos. The head, Flea, had her house raided by someone. She herself somehow escaped, but her furniture and house had suffered some damage. More importantly, the culprit hadn't been caught. Right now, the Examination Division is investigating Flea, so no one could meet with her face to face. All of the principal magical girls in the Human Resources Division were being investigated, so they weren't able to act freely. Not even the discovery of the Clanberry incident was as big a deal as this. Really? Okay then. Something very bad has happened. In the middle of it all... Whoa. Hold on, the page just jumped somewhere. Where am I? Something very bad has happened. In the middle of it all, nanako-san had been sent mail. The name of the person who sent it out wasn't familiar, but she knew about this. Whenever the mail was delivered from this person, she had to follow the instructions and act. She went out to the location and met the person there. She didn't even know what kind of person she'd meet. Since it was strictly enforced that she didn't bring along the magical girl who was always with her, Tepsukemme, this had to be a fairly important person. Okay, so Mea is now Nanako-san's partner. Tepsukemme's whatever she wanted behavior was not to be shown to anyone of importance. Right now she was reading a book in Nanako-san's house. Last time she learned that a magical girl always had to be transformed before going into a battlefield. She had been made to understand and be aware of that truth. The place she was going to now wasn't a battlefield, but right now Human Resources was in an emergency. And they couldn't act. No matter where she went, it'd be better to not get careless. Nanako-san transformed into a magical girl. She layered a thin spring coat on top of the boys' school uniforms she wore, putting her goggles inside her pocket and wearing a knit cap rather than a school hat. It's normal to wear a coat during winter. In spring coats would be worn instead. What would be good for summer? She'll ask Mana next time. While she thought of that, she went from express train to bullet train, crossing over 4 prefectural borders. She passed through many smaller stations from the large station and rode a bus from there. Even in Tokyo, outskirts were still outskirts. There were sparse private houses in the mountains, so places like that did exist, Nanako-san thought as she visited an old inn. The musty brown color of the walls and the roof that looks like it needed repair gave the house a feeling of historicalness. The young, or maybe she should say young-looking, visitor came all the way here in the tourist season. Who came out here all the way in the tourist season, thanked an old woman who showed him the way while glancing a doubtful look at her. When she entered the room, there was already someone there. Okay. I guess they meant showed her the way. Or wait. Hold on. The young-looking visitor came all the way, thanked the old woman who showed him the way. When she entered the room, there was always someone there. Okay. I do wish to thank you for back then. Long time no see. Time had stopped. That's what she felt. But when the second hand of the table clock made a large sound as it moved, she realized this was just an illusion. The person who was there was a magical girl. Nanako-san had been acquainted with her. Nanako-san took out the goggles from her back pocket and wore it. At the same time, she was on guard, retreating back halfway and bumping into the sliding door. Why are you here? Because of you. I was called here after all. The magical girl poured some hot water in her tea saucer. Her star accessory shook and clinked with a horrible noise. Her long hair that reached out to her legs spread over the tatami with her skirt. Sitting on her knees, relaxed on top of the Japanese cushion, it clashed remarkably with the pure Japanese-style room. Pithy Frederica, one of the rogue prisoners who had escaped from prison, thanks to the horrible things that she and her allies had done, one city had now suffered in ruins. Nanako-san's acquaintances, people she'd never met before, and many others were hurt, and some of them even killed. Please, don't be on guard like that. If you shout, who knows what will happen. Without the nervous Nanako-san noticing, Frederica stood up and shut the sliding door. Before sitting back on the cushion, her right palm facing upwards. Please, sit. With her mouth wide open, Nanako-san breathed out. She understood the reason why Tepsukeme wasn't to be brought here. It'd be trouble if they caused a fight at the old inn. Do you mind if I use my goggles? I have no right to deny you. She threw her tote bag to the tatami. She sat cross-legged on the cushion, looking at the tea saucer between them. Without breaking her smiling expression, Frederica poured more hot water from the pot into the tea saucer. Help yourself, she said as she poured the tea into the cup. This was someone you couldn't afford to be careless with. Without touching the teacup, Nanako-san looked at her opponent with her goggles. The last time she looked at Frederica was before they executed their battle plans with Wedin, Tepsukeme, and Frederica, who they had no choice but to let her aid them. The three of them were to capture the assassin Rainbow. In reality, what happened wasn't a peaceful resolution where they could capture the culprit. Rainbow and Wedin had mutually killed each other. The train was stuck in the magical barrier and was derailed, causing a catastrophe that killed many. Tepsukeme, who should have been there, was held captive by Rainbow. Since she couldn't tell what was going on outside, even when she was told what was going on, she still didn't understand it. Since the investigation never found Frederica's body, they speculated that she probably escaped. What had happened during their pursuit of Rainbow would remain a mystery. At the very same, Frederica was now in front of Nanako-san's eyes, drinking some cheap green tea. You know, even for someone like me, I'm living without a shield on my back, which means I've been living a hard and rough life. She kept on drinking the tea. It wouldn't be strange at all if the Foreign Affairs Division wanted my head for revenge. I'd asked to meet someone from the examination, but Mana's leading that division. I can't imagine trying to get along with your jailer. Now, Human Resources, that used to be my division. Did Human Resources use you? They did use me, or did I simply make myself useful to them? But she didn't notice how long she started being so polite. But Nanako-san hurriedly took a sip of her tea. She was thirsty, and the sound of the second hand's loud ticking echoed. Her boss ordered her to come here. Frederica was also here, and that was why they came. Frederica was being used by the Human Resources Division. They couldn't do it face to face. There was no possible way to use an escaped prisoner with dignity. This is for dirty work. She thought her boss was an excellent magical girl, yet she could only feel repulsion at using Frederica. Finding the right way to use poison was not what magical girls should be doing. Poison is poison, so no matter how you use it, there was no right way of using it. Sorry, just checking. While worrying, Nanako-san used her goggles and continued to check on Pithy Frederica. Her stats haven't changed from what she saw before. Then she checked to see if her magical skill had changed, and when she saw it, she took a deep breath. Pithy Frederica was under the influence of a magical skill. Nanako-san, Mana, Tepsukeme. Against them she couldn't take any action. Against those three names she couldn't lie. Against those three names she couldn't target them with her magical skill. Wedden's promise is still alive. Since they were against the two magical girls, Pukin and Rainbow, Nanako-san and the others needed Frederica's help. Frederica also needed her crystal ball to use her magical skill, and in order to have it returned, she offered to cooperate with Nanako-san and the others. There'd be no point if the person you're cooperating with stabbed you in the back. She already decided whether she'd betray them or not. They dismissed Frederica's fickleness, as they thought of that Nanako-san's group had the magical girl Wedden use her magical skill to forcefully make her promise not to betray them, and that made Frederica stuck like a nail. In exchange, they won't chase her as a criminal after the case was solved. Nanako-san took a sip of tea, remembering Wedden made her chest full of anger. She rose up to protect the things she cared about, and then she died. She wanted to punch Frederica, who disappeared after the incident, driven by an impulse of wanting to shower her with shame by hitting her, but she knew that was unreasonable. That would be going against Frederica's promise. Frederica was unable to hurt Wedden. At least she shouldn't have. If that was the case, then Wedden's death was not Frederica's fault. She understood why she was sent here. To be honest, I'd rather still have Wedden in the story than Frederica. She understood why she was sent here. Flo was cautious of using Frederica and being attacked, so she made use of Wedden's magic. If Nanako-san was there, Frederica couldn't lie, Frederica couldn't act, and she couldn't even use her magical skill on her. Once more, Nanako-san thought about poison. A magical girl using a dirty poison such as Frederica was just madness. That's what she thought. Yet Nanako-san had also used Frederica as well. They shackled her with Wedden's promise and put her to work. At that time, they had to use Frederica's abilities. It was because they believed that the city was on the brink of being destroyed. Sorry, getting some water. Since it was an emergency, it couldn't be helped. That's how she convinced herself, and so she used Frederica. So what about now? Was now not an emergency? Was Flen, the Human Resources Division, not being cornered? Her leader was attacked at her own home and is currently unable to do anything. When they used Frederica, they allowed her to go free. She didn't know how much harm Frederica could cause in the world with her freedom. Probably more than the tragedy of that incident, but they had no choice. Compared to that, what Fle, who had the entire division at her palm, was doing was proper. Nanako-san looked up from her tea saucer into Frederica. She was still smiling. Will you calm down now? Yeah. Then let's discuss this matter, shall we? She breathed many times. She breathed out deeply. Her heart repeatedly regained its rhythm. To a magical girl, things like that were simple. Nanako-san, who'd seen more magical girls than anyone, would know. Now she had to suppress it. She couldn't leave Frederica unattended. No matter how evil of a magical girl she was, rather than letting her loose, it was better to keep her here. She resat herself, now sitting on her knees. She took out a brown envelope from her tote bag. After breathing in, she slid the envelope over the saucer toward Frederica. Follow the instructions written here. Understood. Let's not rush then. Nanako-san didn't know the contents of the envelope. Things she weren't told were things she weren't things she should know. If Frederica was using them, it was probably dirty work. Even thinking that made her feel depressed. So this is how cornered human resources has become, to have to do something like this. Promise me something. Promise you what? Please promise never to betray us. Of course I won't. Promise not to hurt anybody. I will show my utmost care. Seeing those eyes, Nanako-san took the deepest breath yet and lowered her head. Then, I'll let you get to work. Poor Nanako-san. So, yeah, like I already said, I already talked about the chapter. It was amazing. The interlude at the end, continuing on the story with what was going on with Fle, is cool. It's nice to see Nanako-san again. Again, I just kind of want to forget Limited ever existed, because it was hot butt cheeks. Like, I was so positive just until the last 22 pages, but after that ending, Limited was just not good. And reading JOKERS right afterward, and going back and taking a look back at Unmarked in my spare time, because I did that, again, just shows me how bad Limited was. Even though I was trying to be positive, and I always try to be positive. So yeah, I just kind of want to forget Limited happened in general. So yeah, either way, that is it. I absolutely loved the rest of this chapter. I loved this chapter. And JOKERS, how much we've learned about the pure elements, Prism Cherry, and we got to see Snow White and all these other girls from the previous arcs. So it was really great. But either way, I'll end things now. Like if you like the video, comment down there. Tell me what you thought of this chapter, what you thought of my first thoughts and reaction. Subscribe for more. Magical Girl Raising Project, much more on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want. I can try to keep you updated there in the channel or talk to you there. And if you want a link to our Discord server to talk to me or more of us on Discord, then just ask and I'll give you a link. That's it. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.